In this first video, I'm going to show you how to install a lapped zip. A lapped zip provides you with a very neat way of concealing a zip, especially if the tape doesn't quite match the fabric. So the first thing we're going to do is neaten the edges of the fabric. And then what we need to do is we need to tune or set the zip. And by this I mean we want to line the top tabs up with the top edge of the fabric and then determine how long we want the zip. So put a pin in to mark what will become the top of the seam, and that should be just above the plastic bar at the bottom of the zip. So now we need to sew the seam, and depending how accurate you are, you might want to put in a little guideline. So sew the seam. Don't forget to start with a little bit of back stitching to secure the stitches, and finish the same way. Back stitch a few stitches just to make sure that the threads don't come undone. You do need to be accurate when you're sewing these seams, because this type of zip application really needs every last millimetre. So make sure that that seam is sewn evenly all the way down. So now just trim off the loose threads to neaten it up and take it over to the iron, and we're going to press this seam open. Press the seam allowance open all the way to the top, making sure to keep it even, both sides. So now we've pressed open the seam allowance, the next thing we're going to do is repress the seam allowance to half its width on the right side of the garment. In this instance, the zigzag stitch comes just to the halfway mark, so when we repress it, it shouldn't be visible when we've installed the zip. There we go. Now I don't know whether you can see, but there is a creased line where the original seam allowance was pressed, and that's about 7 mil inside the new pressed edge. Now line that new pressed edge up close to the teeth of the zip. Notice I'm pinning straight through all the layers, straight through the fabric and the zipper tape, and I'm using the pins at right angles to the stitching line. This means that basically we can just stitch over them, and the machine needle, as long as you go carefully, should just skip over the pins. There's no need to take them out. To sew the zip, you're going to have to change the foot on your machine. Most machines are supplied with a standard zipper foot. They vary a little in appearance, but they all basically work the same way. And normally you can set the needle to stitch either side of the zipper foot, which is helpful because normally we will sew the zipper foot from top to bottom on both sides. Okay, so here we go. Pull the zipper tab down a little way before you start. The reason for this will become apparent later on. Now put the needle through the fabric and aim to sew as close to the folded edge as you possibly can, keeping the stitching very close to the zipper teeth. Okay, well I've sewn as far as the zipper tab, but do you see I wouldn't be able to sew past it because it obstructs the foot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the sewing machine foot and then pull the zip tab past it, and in that way I can then continue to sew in a straight line. There you go. Sew all the way to the bottom. I've put in a couple of stitches in, back stitch in to secure the threads. So pull the fabric clear of the machine, leaving some nice long tails of thread, and then tidy it all up by trimming off the threads. And then we're going to pull, at the bottom of the zip, we're going to pull that loose thread through to the back and knot it off. Now this is the really clever part. Can you see the original crease mark where we pressed the original seam allowance? Now what will happen is if I line the other edge up against it, it completely conceals the zip. This is what we're aiming for. Now in essence, all we have to do now is pin and stitch the other side. What I like to do is run my thumbnail along the teeth of the zipper, which gives me a visual guide of where the stitching should go. There you go. Pin carefully through all the layers, being especially careful to pin through the tape of the zipper so it doesn't shift. Now you'll need to change the position of the zipper foot in relation to the sewing machine needle to sew the other side of the zip. Don't forget to lower that tab as you did before. So this time, when you get to the bottom of the zip, make sure the needle is through the fabric and then lift the zipper foot. And now pivot the fabric around at right angles. And all we're going to do now is sew a single row of stitching straight across the zipper tape at the bottom, just to finish off the zip. Yeah, we can lose that pin. It's done its job, and I wouldn't like it to get in the way of the needle. There's no need to back stitch to secure the thread. What we're going to do is leave a long tail and then pull it through to the other side and knot it off. Much neater than back stitching. There you go. Pull the thread through to the back, knot it off, and give the thing a bit of a press, and I think you can be rightly pleased with yourself. You should have a nice, neat, lapped zip.